Hi everyone, hope you can see my screen. Joel, if you can confirm if you, if you can see my
Yeah,
screen.
we can see your screen. You're good to go.
All right, hi everyone, happy to see so many people around, and thank you for joining my session, and welcome to M365 Friday, California 2021, um, January 22nd. Moving to the next slide. Here are our sponsors. So thank you to our sponsors for hosting this event, taking their time. Crash Network, SharePoint List, Pixel Mill, IT Proof, Butterfly Technologies. And my session sponsor is my company, Golden 5 Consulting, Microsoft Gold Partner, Tier 1 CSP, Supplier, Authorized Education Partner. We are in US, Canada, India. This is our website. COVID pandemic has killed so many things. So would like to thank every frontline worker and their families for helping us going through everything. And sorry for every loss to their families or anyone's family here. And thank you again for the hosts for hosting the session and all the speakers for coming out of their time and speaking. Also to thanks to you who are working as a remote worker and showing the world that yes, we can handle anything today. And everyone stay safe and try to adopt namaste, trying to stay away. Still, COVID is still there. Yes, preventive vaccine is here, but cure is not clearly available. And if you need more information, you can check WHO website. Here's myself, Prabhat Nigam, Golden 5 Consulting CTO, and also CEO of LAX UG Foundation. I've been 3 times MVP, blogger, speaker, author, father, and husband, living in Los Angeles. Um, my primary focus is towards Microsoft Exchange, Office 365, Azure AD, and all other Microsoft technologies around which can collaborate together. I'm born in Chandigarh in India, and I speak Hindi and English as a primary language. I understand most of the other languages around a little bit, and that's my company's Twitter handle. Let's move to the agenda. Agenda seems very important, very big for this session. The session is towards Office 365 identities and options. So first agenda is what is Office 365 identities, planning consideration, utmost concerns, graph permission, design factors, provisioning and deprovisioning, foreign identities, self-services, security. So let's start. So Office identity options are so many nowadays. When it was started, it was very limited to only ADFS and AD Connect to synchronize. Now you can use AD Connect. You can use the cloud only option. So AD Connect will synchronize your on-premises identities to the cloud, and the same users can be logged into Office 365 that way. Other option is if you're a small organization, you don't have Active Directory, you can use cloud only. You create the identities in the cloud. When you are creating identities, how you want to use it, that's where the federation comes in. You can use it with the federation or without federation or with proxy over the federation because you would like to secure your federation services. That's another option available. Many other non-Microsoft federations are also available, which I'm not mentioning here. Apart from federation, other options which came up down the line is pass-through authentication with single sign-on or without single sign-on. Single sign-on is very useful, so everyone will try to use it. Our pass-through authentication always require an agent to be deployed wherever you would like to keep an authentication server, which is a good feature. You can have multiple pass-through authentications configuration agents to authenticate any request. It can be country specific as well. Then you have password hash sync with and without single sign-on, which is most recommended by Microsoft because it keeps your password safe in the format of hash. Any hack will not reveal your password, so that's one of the safest safety point. However, you have to synchronize the password. If companies have policies where you are not allowed to synchronize the passwords, this option may not be viable for you. But the option is there. It's more useful. It's not depending on one particular location. For example, ADFS will be pointing to one URL. So if you want to provide ADFS to multiple different locations, you may have to reconsider your plan. Similarly, path authentication will require the agent in every location, where password hashing does not require any such thing, and you will still leverage single sign-on. Now, moving on, the federation I was talking about, I was saying I didn't describe much, but just moving on, I can see I have added here OneLogin, Okta, Ping, and other. There are many more are available to provide the federation. What are they doing? A similar thing as Active Directory Federation services. However, you are hosting your federation services to a third-party cloud that may be useful, that may not be useful, but maybe it's useful when you don't want to spin another server for your infrastructure. Then provisioning or deprovisioning using third parties. So imagine you are still not a on-premises Active Directory services user, and you have to have a provisioning system where you can control different attributes. That's where also you can use third-party cloud-based federation services provider for user provisioning as well. So OneLogin and Okta can be an option there as well. Now, planning considerations. So it's very important which option you are choosing. You need to know what you want to do with that option, why you want to go for that option. It has to match your requirements. So here are the planning considerations. One time, you will be deploying this for one time. It's not going to be every day you'll be changing today this federation to tomorrow this other thing. So plan it wisely. It will be just one time thing and not gonna be happening every month or every day or every year. So you just do configure it once and you are done, kind of thing. Then consider effort versus redoing. Obviously, you want to plan better so that you configure it one time and don't look to redo it again and again. Then consider pro and cons of every option which you're going to choose. What is beneficial for you, go for that. Then again, consider serverless or with server. Now the cloud only options are available in every provider's system. So maybe you don't want a server installation which will have another Windows license cost, which will have another virtual VM cost and VM backup cost. That's a lot of infrastructure, a lot of additional cost on top of what a serverless can do. But serverless may be adding that cost in the licensing. So you're going to pay maybe either way, but what is the overhead versus is still the responsibility of overhead to run that server services. Probably when you go for serverless, you don't have to worry about that. So then consider why non-ADFS environment. So ADFS could be very, very useful for enterprises where they are not only using Microsoft applications for single sign-on, but also they are using third-party applications, which maybe there are a lot of learning management systems in education industry, or some other intra-site applications as well. So ADFS will allow you to do the single sign-on for every application which can support. There are some more applications which support SAML, where ADFS supports SAML, but again the application provider has to allow it to go to ADFS and work it through as well. I think most of the providers are doing. There are some may not be doing, but ADFS can also be used as a backend or the front end. ADFS and the backend it can pass to Shibboleth or any other identity provider, identity federation provider. Then security is always important. Then now you have provided or installed ADFS federation. You don't want that to be exposed to the internet, so you will install ADFS proxy servers, which will take care of your ADFS server. So proxy is simply just forwarding your request, but it's a front-end server. Any attacks, it will be handling that. Then high availability through load balancer. If you're installing ADFS servers on-prem, prefer um, look for load balancer deployment and two servers deployment, so that if one has any crash or anything happens to it, it'll be taken care of. Other server will be taking care of that issue. Then different domains. ADFS can be redirected to multiple by multiple domains. If you have 2, 3, 4, 5, 10, any number of email domains, and you have that UPN to log in, ADFS can receive multiple domains authentication as well. Then multi-factor authentication can also be delivered through ADFS. Earlier we had multi-factor authentication server. Now it's all done through the cloud, so it all will be redirected to the cloud, and multi-factor authentication will be done as well using ADFS services. All right, moving on to next slide. How does Active Directory Federation services look like with web application proxy, which is ADFS proxy? So basically, in the beginning, you have Active Directory, then you install ADFS, then you have a network load balancer, that's an internal firewall, and then you have external firewall, and between those two firewalls, you have a web application proxy server, which is receiving the front-end connection to ADFS. This will look like your ADFS infrastructure. So how does ADFS works, and what are the ports required and the protocols? So basically a simple 443 port and port 80 will be required, and mostly applications require these ports, and this shows how the request goes and how it is handled. So user request, the single sign-on on the web application proxy, it sends to ADFS. ADFS send it back to the on-premises AD, and then authenticate back and provide you the access to the applications. Moving on to the password hash synchronization authentication, that looks much simpler, but then again you are synchronizing your passwords. So it's already synchronized by AD Connect. AD Connect services are synchronizing your passwords, and when the user logs in, it just need to log into the cloud. It doesn't have to come to on-premises. Just logs in there in the Azure AD. Pass-through authentication architecture is more secure and more critical, which can be used in multiple locations, as I explained earlier. So user request to Azure AD and Azure AD request that request to pass through authentication agent, and agent requests that authentication through Active Directory. When Active Directory authenticates it, it reverts back to the agent. Agent passes back to the Microsoft Azure AD that you are through, and you can access the applications. However, in the backend, it's always synchronizing and configuring pass-through authentication agent one time, and that's it. But the beauty is that you can configure that to go to different or nearby AD site of that location. Now, browser-based seamless single sign-on works in this way. User tries to access the app. It goes to user redirect to Azure AD for single sign-on. So it's imagine you have a third-party application installed and you want to access the as a single sign-on user. It will, if it is configured, it will request. For example, we have our website synchronized and updated with Microsoft Azure AD. So it goes to Azure AD for single sign-on, and we type the authentication. It comes back and authenticate to our Active Directory. And once it gets the certificate authentication done, we logs into our application. But remember, what it used in the backend is Azure AD to authenticate. And if I need to check the emails right after that, I can just go to my emails on the browser and I don't have to re-log in. This is native apps for example, if you're using Outlook app or any other mobile app. So that's native single sign-on, and it will not ask you for the password again. This explains quite similar as browser, but it is also showing how the application will work. Now, password hash sync versus password hash through versus ADFS. So I'm showing three things here. The first is the federation. This is the federation architecture. This is the pass-through authentication, and this is the password hash sync. The simplification, if you go for simplified approach, you will go for pass-through authentication. Password hash sync. So this here you can see user just requests Azure AD to log in, and it gets the authentication done. In the back end, Azure AD Connect is synchronizing the passwords from Active Directory to Azure AD. Now, in the pass-through authentication, the agent is configured to connect to Active Directory to authenticate you. And Azure AD Connect is still synchronizing the user details to Azure AD. User request to Azure AD, it goes and passed to agent, authentication agent, then authentication agent pass the request to ADFS. Still needs some servers to deploy the agent. That's always the criteria. Now in the ADFS, well, most secure is ADFS. That's how we project, or Microsoft project, because we have a federation proxy server in between, and then they pass it to the ADFS federation. All right, moving on. So password hash sync versus password hash through versus ADFS. I've shared this comparison in this format. I'm not going to go through one by one, but I will share the slide and you will have the information, or I will upload to my YouTube channel and you will see whenever you need to. All right, serverless single sign-on with Okta Approach is again, this is Microsoft approach, multiple system required, on-premises and cloud, and delay sync. It can 30-second delay and everything. And when you go to Okta is consistently synchronizing. They have single system, and again, we don't have to see that. We just have to log into Okta in one cloud's system and just synchronize your identity or synchronize your users and just log in through Okta. So less infrastructure to manage. Cloud serverless federation single sign-on with one app login option is also, one login option is there as well. OneLogin is again similar to Okta, another provider who provides federation. So this is the first view showing cloud identity. You are everything in the cloud, zero on-premises server. That's one benefit, and that's that can be in Office 5 only if you don't want to synchronize anything. Again, the only challenge is user provisioning. You have to create a user in one system. If you create the user in a third-party federation provider, I think what you are trying to do is you are you may have other third-party applications which may use those authentication requests as well. If those applications cannot be in Azure AD or Office 365, or if those applications cannot use Azure AD for authentication for some purposes. All right, so the utmost concern is very important. Again, you deployed and everything is done, but again, you have to also think what will be my provisioning cost, or what will my how will I deprovision everything when I have added everybody as administrator. Okay, now user one has left the organization. What will I do now? Oh, I have to find where all he or this person is administrator. I have to go and deprovision his access, or else he can use it. Or even if I change the password, somebody else can use his password and use it somehow if they hack this password or identity. So that's deprovisioning should be very, very important to think about. That's another concern. For example, if you are assigning the licenses today to n number of users, how you are de-licensing them when they are leaving the organization? If a consultant comes and works for 3 months, how you are handling that? I would suggest that we can use Active Directory group licensing method, where, or even Office 5 group licensing method. So you go to the group, remove that user from that group membership, and you are done. Your license will no more be no more active. So the provisioning, deprovisioning can be easy that way. That's what we have to think always when it comes to the identity management. Similarly, the provisioning, we have also seen multiple options available. Which option is more viable for my organization, so that I can provision the identity not only in Azure AD but also in all my third-party applications which are not able to take Azure AD identities. Then adding licenses, which licenses to be added, global admin access from home, who all should be global admin. Maybe you should use privileged identity management so you can restrict the global admins. Just there will be no global admin. Document saving, where you want to allow the document saving. Do you want to allow the saving of the document to the local desktop if somebody is using local desktop or local computer? And what if that laptop gets stolen next day because everyone working from home, or even we are working from office? The risk is always there the moment data is saved on the local device. So how are we going to handle that? Then which resource has been given access? Lost, if somebody lost the identity, lost identity card, or lost the complete identity, his or her identity have been hacked or something. Then malware or ransom attack. Those are the few concerns, and the resolutions are simple. Planning, more planning is better. How we want to think, what can happen. For document saving locally, you can always use Azure Information Protection unless this user has logged in to Azure AD. The document will not be decrypted, so no one else can access if we lock down his identity in the cloud. But again, resource access, wherever we have given the access, we have to have a deep provisioning or denying option available. Whenever we want to deny or cut the switch, we should have an option for that. Again, the ransomware and malware, try to keep everything encrypted, everything updated with latest anti-spam definition, the antivirus definition, so that no spam or ransomware can hit your computer. So now the latest one of the thing which is coming more is graph API, graph permission assignment. So there's another few things which can be achieved by graph, which can be hard coded as well. So we this is where you go and configure and hard code some permissions in the graph API as well. Um, this is to give a third party permission. Now, moving towards the designing factor, how you're gonna be designing the identities that make sure maybe you want to have single sign on. Then you want to have a um, security concern. You want to keep those single sign on servers in the secure. They should be easy to manage. Its process has to be very automated. It cannot be that you are doing it manually every day. Um, Ease of admins, ease easy provisioning, easy and timely deprovisioning, cloud-based or on-premises servers, um, design service director synchronization to another SSO provider or not. For example, if we go for Okta, then you are synchronizing your identities to Okta as well. Is it wise for your organization? Is it required? Or do we have another option that we do not synchronize the identities to multiple single sign-on providers? um, Only one sync is enough or multiple sync is enough. Um, if you have multiple Active Directory forest, how are you going to synchronize those? Do we have it trust, or do we don't have any trust? How are we going to handle all that? And what about non-Active Directory uh, users? How are we going to handle? Or if you don't have any Active Directory or everything in the Google, then how are we going to synchronize that? All those factors will be design factors to think about. Then provisioning, non-provisioning in the multiple items which we have to consider and plan it. Like Active Directory based group license management is one of the best thing available, where you add the users in Active Directory and assign the license when this group is synchronized to Azure AD. In Azure AD, you assign the license. You can turn on and off the services there, and that way you can manage your licensing. The moment you remove the user from this group, the license will be removed for that user. All services will be removed for that user. Or if you add a new user in that group, all the apps which you have pre-configured that should be allowed will be allowed, and those apps you think is not necessary right now for this user, those will be still remain unallowed the way you have configured in that group. That's a benefit. You just want to turn off one app, it's turned off for all the users by clicking one switch. Then automation based relevant license group management. Again, the group you have created, you are adding the user manually. It's still an effort. So it can be we can always have an agent in on-premises which will identify, okay, you have an attribute one has a value department IT or department finance. You should go for finance Active Directory group, which will assign probably same licenses as the IT, but the services inside that license are restricted for finance team. For example, SharePoint or OneDrive may be restricted, or another requirement might be added, which is Azure Information Protection. So more encryption is available for finance team rather than maybe other teams may not have that. So that's point. Sorry about moving the slide. Now Windows 2016 also changed few things in the Active Directory, where they have allowed time-based Active Directory group membership. So that's very useful if you have a temporary contractor. Give them a time-based Active Directory group membership, and after that time it will expire and the user will not be able to access it, the same resources. Similar concept was migrated to Azure AD under privileged identity management, time-based group membership. So in my organization, everyone logs in as an admin. All the admins logs in for 4 hours or less, or mode. If they need more, then they log in. But at the same time, when they log in, every other administrator is aware that this person logged in. And if it is at a different time where you expect this person to be sleeping, or you know that this person is in Hawaii enjoying the vacation, then you will look to go and see what's happening, who logged in as him. And if it's not him, then you can easily fast block that access. Or other benefit is no one is an admin all the time. Even if your identity is stolen, you are not an admin. User can just steal your emails or something of your own, not the whole organization's. Now, moving on is that another option available in Azure AD is assigning a package by end user can request a package, and a manager can approve it, and later a manager can deny as well. And manager or ID team can always review the access all the time whenever required. Now, foreign or partner identities. So we are not limited to our organizations, right? We are doing the business to the external use with the external users, external companies. So sometimes we have to share a few things. We have to share some partners. So we added the partner identities. We added the foreign guest identities. But did we remove that? That's the main question. We added them. Do we always need them forever, or after a project it has to go away? That's another concern. How will you manage that? That's why I was talking about the access package and review, kind of a very useful there. Either use that, or you will have to manually deny the permissions, or you can use the time-based membership, or you use the privileged access management and identity management. Moving on, so with the foreign identities, the access management, you can see that right on the right hand side, this is a slide which is showing that access package is management is available, which is available with EMS E5 or Azure AD Premium P2 license. If you have if you want to use that, just avail that license and use the access package management, and you can also use the access review. So who else has access, review that, and if you find out somebody just should not have the access, just go ahead and block it. All right, self-services. What are the self-services options available, or how we should see that automation happening today? So self-services options, I would say self-service password reset, the game changer. So many organizations have already benefited by that. That now the hey, change my password call is not coming anymore. I just came back from vacation. I have to go to the URL and I can just switch or change my password if I don't remember that. That's the best thing happen. Moving on, that's a self-service option. Then again, we talked about automation of licenses. We talked about automation of license removal through the group to the Active Directory groups or Office groups. Then we also talked about automation in application access provisioning using the in the previous slide, that access management. Then automation and time-based deprovisioning using group membership, and then privileged entity management is always the case, which is available. So you just configure these, will automate the things, and these will be more secure for your infrastructure as well. Now, moving on to the security is another concern for every organization. How secure we are. We're going to the cloud. Oh, my authentications are being synchronized. Yes, everything is being synchronized. We are evolving more, adding more things to our infrastructure. So how secure we are. The security is the most important thing. So Azure Multi-Factor Authentication provides second factor authentication. Now there's so many options available using your phone app. You can unlock or or approve it, or you go to the code, you receive a code, type the code, you can log in, or you receive a phone call, whichever option you have configured. If you need more security, you can also select that user authenticates in the app and also type the password. So you can say 2 times it should do the multi-factor authentication. So that will be a 3 level of authentications. Then privileged identity management is again a security method that which is going to allow all the administrators to request first a PIM, privileged identity manager, and then log in to access the admin level resources. Now, Azure Information Protection is protecting every document. It is providing encryption to every document, which can be defined based on what is your requirement, saying that user 1 can only access this document and no one else can access. Even if user 2 gets the access to the document, the moment he will try to log in or use the document or open the document, it will prompt this user to log in to Azure AD, and if it is not the same user, it will fail. So the document Azure Information Protection to protect your document. Conditional access and security defaults are available to select, okay, maybe this particular IP we don't want to allow, or which this particular country we don't want to allow to, we don't see anyone traveling into this country. So we have restricted, or we say, I think we have allowed the countries where we have the existence, for example, US, Canada, India. And if we see that we have a consultant in another location, we may allow that as well. But at this time we think we don't have, so we have blocked other countries, so there will be no authentication attempts from unknown places. That's one beauty of conditional access. More conditional access rules you can configure to secure your organization as well. Then again, self-service password reset is providing security in the term of, even your help desk doesn't know what is the password. You go and reset your password by your own. So don't worry that your help desk knows your password, who reset your password, right? Then Office 365 ATP is another level of spam protection for your emails in Office 365. Then Intune also adds a bootloader in Azure ATP to scan your Windows devices. So that's another level of security. And Intune also manages the devices. It keeps on updating the Windows with Windows updates, or at least start showing you how is the device doing today. Or if you find anything wrong, you can always block the device or take it to repair under Azure ATP. All right, so moving on to the next slide. So we're very close to the close my session. So last 2 things, these are something new which are coming up, which I'm adopting, and we're talking about looking back that we were talking about cloud only services. So now if your requirement is that, okay, I don't want any server for Office 365 in on premises, I don't want AD Connect, for example. So now Microsoft is offering their cloud services for AD Connect, which is, if you look for this keyword, you'll find that, or it's a hyperlink which can be used as well to access. I'm going to share that link in my share as well in YouTube or my slide. So that's another option Microsoft opened up for identity management. No more on-premises servers required. If you move to Okta or OneLogin or any other third party for the same reason, then now you will see that you would like to come back to Microsoft and use Azure AD Connect cloud only version. Other thing which came this week itself was very exciting Azure AD mobile number update for a new Graph API. It is very important for many organizations where organizations wanted to update the personal mobile number of the organization users to Azure AD, but when you update, it goes to global address list in the Outlook. So that because of that reason, you don't want it to do using PowerShell earlier. Now this is the new method which came, which is more secure. It's going to be adding the mobile number, but it is not going to show that mobile number in Office 365 global address list in Outlook. So that's another new thing and most very important for many organizations to update their users' mobile number for self-service password reset or MFA. It just can do on the back end. Imagine you already have, I mean, if you have a new user, you can ask them to do by their own. But if you have an old user, like thousands of users, you just don't want to ask them to ask everybody to just go back and do it by themselves. So if you have the data, you can just update that using new Graph API. All right, moving on. Here's my charity. I think we're done for the everything which I wanted to share today. And if you have any question, concerns about my charity, you can always write us and reach out to my charity and help us out. And we are a user group community. We share the blogs, we share the talks, we share the speaking events, and the when we are open, we'll be going back to the Microsoft Playa Vista location, and we'll see you there. And if you want to connect to me and my what I'm doing, you have multiple places to go, and you can just connect to with my Twitter or Facebook or YouTube or LinkedIn or yeah. And thank you everyone for joining the session today. Now I think we can move to the Q&A if anyone has any questions. I think you have an option to ask.